What up, everybody? It's Rob the Mellow Guy, and I'm back at you with another video. And as you can see from the title, this week's video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite doom metal albums. Actually, I'm going to be talking about all the albums I have in my doom metal collection. Well, let me edit that even, maybe. I'll be talking about some, because I do have quite a few releases, and I'm sure I might have missed a couple when I was going through my vinyls or going back through my CDs here. But anyway, let's go over some doom metal releases I thought you guys might want to hear. Maybe some recommendations if you haven't heard. Yeah. And also at the end of the video, I thought I'd go on a rant or kind of talk about a topic. I got some good positive feedback about my record store day release rant last week and even the week before, because I'm still not letting it go that a bunch of people, again, they take record store day as an opportunity to go and get an album that a lot of people want because there's only going to be so few copies. And sure enough, what do? Well, they decide to go and jack up the price somewhere, and you just look at it, right? Like, I'll go searching up, like, okay, this record store day release, let me go on Amazon or eBay, let's see what people are doing. And I'm seeing stuff that's, like, ridiculous. Like, the Sisters of Mercy EPs, now, like, some jerk-off thinks they're going to sell it for $56. Screw you, buddy. You know, I really hope no one pays for that and you just sit there holding an album. Again, if you really like the band and you're taking an album and you're trying to sell it well over the price that you paid for, you're just a douche. That's what you are. You're just a douche. Anyway, let's get into Doom releases. Starting with Witchcraft, Swedish doom metal, doom rock, 70s hard rock band. The early stuff, very vintage sounding, had that analog kind of 70s sound, bit of Black Sabbath, bit of kind of like 70s proto-metal. You could tell they were influenced even by bands like Witchfinder General at times, listen to their music. The early releases a lot of people like, and then some of the later releases they said were overproduced and blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you, I really like the album Legend. This was put on by Nuclear Blast. I think this is a tremendous release. The song Deconstruction, a lot of people, when I had my college radio show, I hosted a radio show for those who are not familiar and are new to the channel, in college for all the time I pretty much went to Sonoma State. And that song, Deconstruction, from the album was getting requested quite often because I played it and then all these people were like, I love this song. And Legend in its entirety is a really good release, well-written release. The lyrics, the songwriting, everything about it, the way the guitars sound, I just think it's from top to bottom a really amazing album. I know a lot, again, some reviewer, I remember I watched a video, this woman was trying to say how, oh, it's overproduced and they're not obscure anymore. What the hell is that supposed to mean? So a band gets signed to Nuclear Blast Records. Oh, they're sellouts. No, they're not. And then, sure enough, they write really good songs. They have some great sounding music. And it's, well, they're not obscure enough anymore. That's why this album sucks. Oh, go eat another freaking ham sandwich or something. Jeez, I'm not trying to be mean there, but it was just, to me, when I heard that, I just kind of shook my head. But I've always liked it. I've always vouched for it. Because to me, it set up my favorite Witchcraft album. And a lot of the hardcore Witchcraft, doom rock fans are going to probably piss their pants over this, but I love Nucleus. This album, I love the production, I love the sound, the songs, the Obsessed, I love that riff. And then I think the song that really, when I look at this, was probably The Outcast. I loved how that sounded, I loved the lyrics. I thought Magnus Pylander, his lyrics on this release and everything he was trying to visualize at times just was exceptional. Truly an amazing album. I really wish it got more recognition because it is awesome. So check it out if you haven't. Nucleus by Witchcraft. All right, here's an album that I'm very familiar with because I actually interviewed the artist for the college radio show I had. This is Attention Deficit Domination. An album done by Hank III. That's right, the grandson of the legendary Hank Williams, country artist, and he's the son of Hank Jr. Hank Jr., to be honest, I'm not a big fan of. His music is overproduced, country dribble. And a lot of people, when you bring up country music, they'll be like, oh, I don't like country music. And then you'll go, what about Johnny Cash? oh, I love that. Well, you're just a jackass. And Hank Williams, great music, iconic artist, very influential in the world of music and songwriting. And there's a lot of artists I can vouch for from the classic country days. Townes Van Zandt, I'm a huge fan of. Guy Clark, he's got some great material. Merle Haggard and The Strangers, the song that's actually in the horror movie The Strangers. Mama Tried. I actually love playing along to that song on my acoustic. That's a fun song. But screw those people that always say that, like, oh, country music sucks. Yeah, modern day, overproduced, shitty country. But have you heard Hank III's country albums? That's classic rockabilly sounding outlaw country. But this album, he actually decided to do a doom metal release because he's a fan of a variety of types of music. He plays in punk bands, played in punk bands for years, actually, even before getting into doing the more country, outlaw country music. And I got to interview him, and it was really cool because we talked about this release because I was such a big fan because it's more doom metal, and he's a huge fan. And also, he used the albums, excuse me, not the albums, the amps. Yeah, he used the amplifiers that were used by Sleep to record their album, Dope Smoker, or as some people know it, Jerusalem. I'll get into that a little later when I talk about Sleep, Holy Mountain in my collection. But this album, I really like the riffs. If you're a fan of Sleep, Electric Wizard, Orange Goblin, that very heavy, fuzzy sounding doom, you gotta check it out. Really good release. All right, next, actually, since I brought it up, here is Sleep, Holy Mountain. If you're a doom metal fan, you have this in your collection, right? It's there. This release, so influential in the world of doom metal. Unbelievable. The song Holy Mountain alone, one of the heaviest jams I have loved for many years. You just can't deny how this trio from the South Bay, San Jose, where I was born, they really made their mark with not just this release, but their whole sound and their whole approach. Huge respect for what they tried to do with the album Dope Smoker, an hour-long plus track, right? Just trying to come up with something, right? A concept to be unique and creative. And then the label at the time, London Records, just being ridiculous and pretty much trying to chop it up and hold them back, and not letting them be truly creative. It reminded me of Rush 2112, right? That battle to try to make what you want as an artist, and then the label or somebody saying, no, you need to do this. It's like you're trying to make your statement. But and I feel bad because, like, if you listen to Holy Mountain, this band should have been allowed to have creative freedom. This band the label who signed them, London Records, should have been a little more open-minded because musically, in the 90s especially, they were on fire. The riffs, everything they came up with, the arrangements. Taken a lot from Black Sabbath, Volume 4 Worship for sure. But I've always looked at this album as, a lot of people will say, oh, it's overhyped, it's overrated. No, it really is a good album. So if you haven't heard it somehow, you need to. Sleep, Holy Mountain. Great release. I'm saying that a lot. Great, because these albums, they're in my collection. They're all winners, gosh darn it. Grief, Come to Grief. Sludge band from the East Coast. This release is utterly, insanely brutal. I love the riffs, bombastic. Earthworm, great song. If you're a fan of Noothgrush, you will definitely like this if you haven't heard Grief, but you're familiar with Noothgrush. It has a bit of crust, punk influence at times, but the riffs, pure, slow, doom, sludge to the max, right? I'm talking ear-shattering riffs, people. And I actually have a friend, he's an acquaintance, I guess you would say. Cool dude, has a YouTube channel. His name's Necro Sauce. Check it out, Necro Sauce. And he actually covers, he does guitar covers of a few Grief songs. He does a really good job playing along to them. And it's so cool that's actually one reason I actually found out about him. We've communicated because he likes a lot of the same stuff I like. He covers like Nocturnus, Morbid Angel. Impetigo, and then Grief. I was just like, whoa, you're covering Grief? That's so awesome, because I'm a huge fan. And we talked about how this release, super, super heavy, great release. Every time I say great, take a shot. You'll be drunk. I Hate God in the Name of Suffering. Probably my favorite I Hate God album. I love this album because it's so savage, so raw, so unforgiving. Mike Nine, his vocals on this, I still consider it one of the best sounding I Hate God albums in terms of the attitude that they were trying to kind of present and capture. Really do enjoy it. I remember I played this album on my car when my friends and I were driving to see, was that Carcass, Night Demon, Crowbar, and Ghoul in Sacramento. My friend Sleep Fan was his nickname, Sleep Fan. He was singing along to this. Alex, aka Sleep Fan, we were jamming this because it's one of those releases you just enjoy if you're a fan of sludge and doom. And a lot of people, when you describe I Hate God, you say it's Black Sabbath, Black Flag, just completely unforgiving brutality to the max. Great band right here from New Orleans, right? The New Orleans scene spawned tons of great doom, stoner bands, Crowbar, so Acid Bath. I mean, come on. The list goes on and on. All right, and then I'm going over the CDs. I'll get to the vinyls here after I go through CDs. But here's Trouble the Skull, Chicago doom band, super iconic. The Skull, unbelievable release. Probably my favorite song off this is Gideon, but then I also do like the song Fear No Evil. Pray for the Dead, that's another solid track. And then the title track, The Skull at the End, is one of those epic sounding doom releases. What I like about Trouble, well, there's many reasons I like Trouble. Eric Wagner's vocals, unbelievable, so unique, fits the music. Sad, he passed away. He is definitely one of my favorite doom metal singers. Actually, one of my favorite heavy metal singers. I've always liked his style of singing, and I like the lyrics that he would, come up with. And he also did a solo album that I reviewed before. It was actually after his death. They had released it. He had recorded it before he passed, and it was posthumously released. And really good songs on there. Very, very deep, meaningful songs. I highly recommend checking out that album out. So Eric Wagner, his solo release. So this album, one of my favorite Trouble releases, have it on CD. Definitely would like to have it on vinyl, but I found this at Rasputin's and it was at a good price, so I said, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. Oh yeah, I want to give a shout out, have this cassette. It's actually the first cassette of this band and their batch of I forgot, 10 or 20. Mournful Cries was this one. Bloodlust and Evil Confessor, 2 songs on cassette, recorded by the band. Shout out to Alex, the drummer. Sleep Fan, who I mentioned earlier in the video. He he recorded it, and he did a really good job for somebody, again, learning, having to do recording on his own, right? I mean, he very dedicated, very talented. I still will always enjoy him when he was singing in this power violence sludge doom band called Amnesia. I really wish that band put out a physical release, a vinyl of some of their songs. Chris Only Burnett on drums, Luis on guitar. Gosh, I saw them for their first show at a bar in Petaluma called Gales. To me, they were one of my favorite bands. I've always liked them, their attitude, their sound, just because they were friends, they were having fun, coming up with this extreme music. But then Alex Luis formed, sure enough, Mournful Cries, and they also brought Matt Lasser, who played in a band called Scrape the Earth. And this trio, Matt, Luis, and Alex, Mournful Cries, I've really enjoyed. And yes, they are my friends, so I'm a bit biased. But check them out. If you like doom, classic sounding doom in this vein of Electric Wizard, Witchfinder General, Trouble, Saint Vitus. I mean, come on, Mournful Cries, where did they get their name? Their debut album, Bad Taste, very, very solid album. I highly recommend checking out. I just wanted to share that because I do have the #1, because they were selling those at their first show in Santa Rosa. And I remember Sleep Fan was like, yeah, we got these cassettes. And I was like, I don't even have a cassette player at the time. Now I do. I have a cassette player, vinyl, CD contraption. But at the time I didn't have a cassette player technically. And I was like, I'm just going to buy it still because I want to have this, to always remember. And he was like, yeah, awesome. Because he was like, but you already have these songs too, like, because we send you all the time to get your opinion on, tracks. He would send me to get feedback. And Matt has a project now called Pale Cremation. I've talked about it before on the channel, but just want to give a shout out to them again because I did find that when I was going through my collection. Thought that was so cool. Still have it. It's history. All right, here's my St. Vitus collection. I actually got this at the Vinyl Revolution in Monterey, California. It's a CD with the early works of Scott Regers on vocals. So you have songs on this like Darkness, The Walking Dead, White Stallions, Wars Our Destiny, Mystic Lady, probably one of my favorite St. Vitus songs. Look Behind You is on this, which is cool. I really like that track. Wino does that track on a live release, which I have right here. I actually talked about this in a video if you want to check. When I first bought this album from the Vinyl Revolution in Monterey, as well as Lily F65, which I'll just share now. Since I have St. Vitus, here's Lily F65, album with Wino on vocals. And then I have this cool single, War is Our Destiny. It's a single release. I picked this up. Actually, I didn't pick it up. I saved it because when K-Sun Radio, where I was at, was gonna, Nate the head was like, oh yeah, you can get rid of the vinyls, make some money, sell them, which I did. I actually sold them at a concert. I was able to get some money, selling some records, but I also gave a lot to friends and stuff. And this was one of the releases I kept for myself because I was like, this one I'm gonna hold off on, giving as a gift. Because some of those people got some sweet gifts. Like my friend Donnie, he actually got Toxic, a single from the technical thrash band Toxic, which not only did it have 2 tracks from, I think it was the album Think This, the second album, but it also had like an interview with the guitarist, which was so cool. Like it was like an interview inserted into the vinyl as well. That was part of it, right? Like a little interview from a metal zine at the time. So he had all this stuff that was so cool. And he was like, hey, did you know this? I'm like, no, wow. I gave you a really good gift, I guess. But this St. Vitus live album, really good live album. If you haven't checked it out, it's raw. And that's what I like about it, right? It's not a perfect sounding release. There's something about it. It has that live feel to it. Not like some of those albums that they claim to be live, but they were really done in a studio. And here's Die Healing, album that also has Scott Regers on vocals. This is actually when he came back. He left the band, Wino came. Then they had Christian Linderson. I think that's that guy on Children of Doom, COD. But Die Healing I liked because to me, the riffs and everything about this release, really dark, very, very profound sounding album. So check this out. I got this at Rasputin's and Campbell actually, long ago. And then here is the most recent St. Vitus album that came out in 2019. I don't know if they're ever going to do another one. I think, I know the bassist, no longer. So it's unfortunate that, again, they actually, at this time, they also replaced the original bassist with, I'm trying to remember the guy. I'm trying to see here. Was that, yeah, Pat Bruders played on this album. I remember. Yeah, it was really sad. But this is a solid release. It's a good album. It definitely has some elements of the old St. Vitus. And also it was the first release in many years since Die Healing to have Scott Regers on vocals. So I like that. All right. And then speaking, I'm going to go back to Trouble. I have the self-titled Trouble album. Hammerheart Records actually is responsible for reissuing a lot of these classic Trouble releases. I feel bad, there's a bit of a glare, so. Now, this album is great. If you haven't heard some of the songs, Rest in Peace is probably my favorite. At the End of My Days, a great song. I actually got to see, I saw The Skull. Eric Wagner had that band right after he had left Trouble and kind of started his own thing, and it was called The Skull, referencing the album. And I saw, they were the band opening for St. Vitus. When my friends and I went and saw St. Vitus with Readers in Oakland in 2016. And one of the songs during the Skull set was At the End of My Days. And that I will always remember singing along with my friends to At the End of My Days. Eric Wagner up there. We're in the front row. Great memories. But this release, The Misery Shows, I am a huge fan. I love that song. That, to me, great dynamic sounding release, or song right there. Psalm 9. Love the album cover. The tree with the skull. This is one of my favorite all-time Doom releases. And it shows why Trouble's so different. That twin guitar attack. You have to... Rick Wartell, Bruce Franklin, amazing guitarists. And what I like, Trouble, yes, they were a doom metal band, but they also had elements of like the new wave British heavy metal, a little thrash at times. But having those two guitarists, their versatility, their style, the way that they could trade riffs and leads at times, just made them stand out, right, compared to everybody else. And I feel so bad because Trouble should have made it bigger. People should have acknowledged this band. And I just feel maybe they just didn't get the opportunities, right? Because talent-wise, song-wise, again, Eric Wagner's voice, so unique, such a great songwriter. I just have always felt, I really wish they would have gotten more recognition. But a lot of the fans really do cherish their releases. I mean, I listen to it quite often, this album, as well as my other releases from Trouble. And probably, here's my favorite Trouble release. Lyrically, it's one of the best albums of all time, in my opinion. It's definitely up there, getting the glare. This is, I have it on CD as well, but I thought I'd show the vinyl. This was one from Kaysen that was also rescued by myself. I decided to keep this one for myself instead of sell it or give it away as a gift, because Run to the Light is the album. Just whenever time I think about this album, because I've listened to it for so many years now, it's gotten me through so many different times in my life. When I was in college, during the radio show, I definitely played a lot of songs from this album. The song, The Misery Shows, the title track, Run to the Light. I love the lead guitar playing, and I love the section where the music slows down, right? It's very fast, thrashy sounding, and then there's this slow section with the more acoustic sounding riff. And Eric Wagner just, once again, amazing vocal performance on this release. Probably, like I said, this is my favorite Trouble album, and I'm so happy to have it on vinyl. Here is The Obsessed, The Church Within. Wino, his band The Obsessed. This was the album that should have really gotten more attention to The Obsessed, and the guitar talents and songwriting talents, and his also vocals. Scott Weinrich is amazing. Truly unique, just unbelievable player, has such a presence. His music, his contributions to St. Vitus. He also, Spirit Caravan, love that release. I actually have it in my CD collection. That's one I didn't pull out. I should have, because I interviewed Dave Sherman, the bassist in Spirit Caravan, who also sang in a band called Earthride, who put out some great albums. Oh my God, Earthride, great doom band. But when I look at The Obsessed, they were, for years, going back to the 80s, Wino is very much an influence on that scene. Even to the punks. Punk people loved his music. There's a documentary The Obsessed did that was supposed to help kind of support this album. Unfortunately, I've always felt that, was it Columbia Records who signed them? They just did a crappy job promoting. They didn't really understand. The Obsessed had a great cult following. Just the label, I feel, didn't know how to push to get this album more recognition. Or also the time, right? Because grunge music, the 90s. I love this release though. Check it out if you haven't. The Obsessed, The Church Within. Some killer songs. One of my favorites, Street Side. The music video for that's really awesome. All right, let me go. I got a couple more. This is Egypt, North Dakota Doom Band. This is actually on orange vinyl. Quickly show you guys. I interviewed the bassist singer actually from this band for the radio show. It's a cool guy, Aaron Esterby. You see that, the orange soda pop vinyl. This album's called Become the Sun. If you're interested, check it out. From Egypt. Very much, again, in the vein of like Sleep, a lot of the doom bands from the 90s, even also Deep Purple influence, 70s hard rock at times, ZZ Top, kind of like that. Again, 70s sound, groove rock. But I really liked this album when it came out. And I like the EP they put out before this. It's really good. I believe it's the Valley of the Kings. And then I give a shout out to my buddy. He's a drummer who played in this band that Wino actually sang in for a little bit. Lost Breed's the band. And, excuse me. Let's see here. Give a shout out to... Jamie Silver. Sorry, Jamie. I had a blank. I had to look at the album. Jamie's a tremendous drummer. And Lost Breed had a couple releases after this. But this was the album they had put out because Wino had recorded some songs with them before they recorded a full length, which was really cool because they were friends. And unfortunately, Lost Breed, again, came out, was that late 90s, or not late 90s, early 90s. They've been around for a while. They got 2 albums. They were on a label. I believe it was actually the same label that put out St. Vitus Live. It was a German label. And just unfortunately, they just didn't get the recognition which they deserved. I thought the first 2 albums from Lost Breed are really good albums. Check them out if you haven't heard even of Lost Breed. Underrated band. Really, really talented. Again, the doom sound, but also hard rock. At the time, though, it was either you were like, especially that period in the 90s, again, I wasn't born yet, but like 1990 to 1992, from what I remember reading and hearing from people, you're either a hair metal band, you're either then a grunge band, or I guess if you were a thrash band, you could kind of survive. But if you were like a doom band, opportunities just play, especially in LA, because I remember Jamie, I talked with him, he even said that they didn't want to be the pay-to-play bands. They didn't want to be like the hair bands that would do all this ridiculous stuff just to get a show. Lost Breed and a lot of, I think, doom bands had a certain attitude like, we're not like these other bands, spraying our hair up and just being ridiculous, right? And stuff. And musically, super talented. So, check it out. This is the Wino Days, it's called. This is a good release, and also the first 2 Lost Breed albums I would check out. But the quick rant I wanted to do, and gosh, this video has gone longer than I said it would. I try to keep it short, but go figure. One thing I wanted to bring up is I'm looking at the current generation, the young generation, and I do worry because, man, opportunities to discover metal, rock. Good thing we have the internet, right? We do have YouTube. We do have, I guess, on social media, you can discover. But man, I'm just so concerned because like with my nephew and stuff, his generation, young, real young, in middle school and high school, there's no opportunities for these kids to really find out. And once again, like so many things, the metal community, I feel, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. We're so close knit. That way we keep the, I guess you could say, quote, posers out. But at the same time, I do worry, like, how are we going to introduce to younger generations that might get this music and be inspired and then create the next wave, right, of music. And it's something I thought about, right, because I look at like this modern culture, and especially like I make fun of like music fests, like Coachella. Oh my God, if you're a band, why the hell would you play Coachella? People don't go to freaking Coachella to actually listen to good music. They go to Coachella to freaking take selfies. And now somebody told me it's like, you go to Coachella because it's like the OnlyFans girl convention. Because most of the girls are dressed up skimpily and, again, they're trying to sell something. Most of them have OnlyFans pages. And that's what it is. And again, if you're a band, those people aren't your fans. But a lot of the young people gravitate to the modern music, again, the Coachella, the electronic garbage that, again, AI is going to be pretty much creating. So I have this question, and again, if you're a fan and he wants to tackle it as well and give me your opinion, again, also make sure you like and subscribe, because that way, we can continue this conversation, because I really do honestly want to know, what can the metal community do to really get young people interested to discover? Because I discovered all this stuff, I think, back because once I heard metal music, I kept exploring, wanting to listen to new releases. And luckily you have the internet, and then you do have record stores where you could find this stuff, right? That's how I discovered quite a bit of my albums in middle school and high school. But I look at the current generation, and look, you don't have record stores anymore, CD stores, right? Hell, Rasputin's, and there's very few of those now. There's no Tower Records. There's no Warehouse Records. When I was a little kid, I could get, my albums and CDs. And so I'm thinking, what are we going to do? What is available? And I guess we can only hope that, again, these kids go on the internet, they're interested in rock metal music, they discover it, and they become the fans, right? But it's something I've thought about for a long time. But now with my nephew, as he's getting older, and I'm seeing teenagers, especially in my area, and how they act and everything, and I think to myself, God, these kids are a bunch of tik-tok and nimrods. I'd rather have a bunch of crust punks walking around and stuff, or fans of G.G. Allen. Okay, that might be pushing it. But anyway, what I'm talking about? I worry. So, just interested. All right, if you have any thoughts on that, make sure to comment. But I think I've talked a lot. Talked about doom metal. Actually, just like doom metal, this was a long video. Not as long as Sleep Holy Mountain or Sleep Dope Smoker. Anyway, Rob the Metal Guy, signing off. Later.